Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Masha, Head of Partnerships at Kilimanjaro Consulting, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. Our topic for today is trends shaping the future of supply and demand. And it's a timely one because in the current economic environment, supply chains have moved well beyond just an operational issue. They're now very much a board level conversation. Ongoing cost pressures, tariffs, demand volatility, and tighter working capital conditions mean that supply chain decisions have a direct and very visible impact on cash flow, services, and growth. Netstock's 2025 Supply Chain Planning Benchmark Report really brings this to life. It shows that nearly two-thirds of the mid-sized businesses have felt direct operational impacts from tariffs, with many choosing to absorb those costs to protect customer service. And at the same time, it also highlights a noticeable shift from reacting to uncertainty towards building resilience through better planning and data-driven decision making. To unpack these insights, we're joined today by Netstock. For those who may be less familiar, Netstock is a global provider of AI supply chain planning and inventory optimization software purpose built for mid sized businesses. They've been around for more than 15 years, helping business leaders gain forward looking visibility into demand, supply, and inventory risk, a very handy tool to have in your toolkit during uncertain times like now. The insights come from their 2,400 customer base. And what I'm most excited about is to explore what Netstock is seeing when it comes to AI adoption and supply chain planning and how that's helping businesses continue to launch and expand products despite ongoing economic headwinds. A few things to mention before we dive in. Today's session is being recorded and will be sent to the attendees and people who have registered. You will all see a Q&A button within your Zoom interface. Please feel free to ask us anything relevant to this topic throughout the session so others can also see the questions and add to the conversation. We will reserve time at the end of the session to answer these. Also, you'll see a few polls pop up on your screen. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so please take a moment to share your input when they appear. With that context, I'm pleased to hand over to Carrie from Netstock.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today. For those that I haven't met, I'm Carrie Scher, and I've had the pleasure of spending over 20 years in the supply chain space across consulting and corporate environments, obviously with a strong focus on inventory optimization. And if I'm being completely honest, that usually means I've spent 20 years seeing every possible way inventory can go wrong. So one of the stories that I personally often share is I once worked with a client a few years ago, and this truly does resonate with a lot of people because the specific client was looking to grow, they were going to the bank for additional funding, so they brought me in to support the due diligence process. And I personally remember walking into the warehouse, and I was incredibly impressed. They had invested around $2 million into the operation. We're talking state-of-the-art warehousing systems, RFID scanners, vertical lift machines, robotic arms picking up inventory, and advanced WMS. And honestly, it truly was phenomenal. So we go upstairs and I sit with the MD and we have a cup of coffee and I say to him, okay, let's now have a look at your balance sheet. Obviously, that was part of the mandate. And as you expect, inventory was the largest value sitting there. And I remember asking him, okay, take me through how you're planning your inventory. And he said, don't worry, we've got this very sophisticated Excel spreadsheet. But he didn't know how the spreadsheet worked. So he called in one of his team members. And the team member said to me, well, it was actually built about 8 years ago by someone in marketing. No version control, no seasonality, no proper demand signals, just a 3-month average and some buffer safety stock. And I remember sitting there thinking, we've invested millions in how we store and move the inventory, but almost nothing in how we decide what to buy. And that truly is the reality, and it's not uncommon. I've worked with so many businesses. We're looking at 200-300 different clients across multiple different businesses. And even if they have systems in place, they aren't using them effectively. So people often ask me, why stay in what is a very chaotic space like supply chain, specifically inventory? I mean, I've spent time in private equity, arguably a much sexier space, and yet I keep coming back to inventory. And the reason is simple. Apart from genuinely loving it, it's because that's where you create real, immediate impact. It's about helping businesses move from uncertainty to clarity because inventory is typically one of the largest assets on the balance sheet and yet one of the least optimized. So before we go into a poll question, I want to just state that inventory planning today is far more complex than it ever used to be. I was chatting earlier to the KC team, and I was saying, right now, the economy, the physicality of logistics is so chaotic. We've got more SKUs, more locations, more pressure on cash, more disruption. And yet, despite all of that, to have planning still done on spreadsheets or gut feel is, one would say it's brave, but I don't know if we can say brave at this point. I think it works, unfortunately, until it doesn't. And at some point, you have to ask yourself, why do you want to keep doing it the hard way? So, first poll question, if everyone's comfortable answering this, where is your business currently in its AI for supply chain planning? Are we actively using AI in planning today? Are we testing or piloting some AI tools? We plan to invest in AI in the next 12 months or no current plans to adopt AI? If you wouldn't mind just answering this so that we can get a feel for where you are in terms of advancement. Okay, great. If we can have a look at some of the answers. Okay, now I say this as expected because I think a lot of people are in this position. 6% of you are actively using AI planning tools today. 28% of you are being proactive in testing. 22% of you are planning, and 44% currently have no plans to adopt AI. So, if I could just tell you a little bit about Netstock. So, I work for Netstock. I've known them since inception. We are cloud-based and we do demand and inventory planning. It sits on top of the ERP, but we've got direct connections into both Acumatica and XO. We've been around since 2009 and support about 2,400 customers globally. But more important, in my opinion, is we help businesses answer some really simple questions. What should I order? What should I not order? Where should I move inventory around your supply chain? And where should I be holding it? Because most businesses don't actually have a data problem, they have a decision problem. So I want to go through some key differentiators as to what really is being housed in Acumatica or MyOb versus what we do at Netstock. And why we wanted to speak to you today about this is thank you so much, obviously, to the entire KC team. We've got phenomenal relationships. I'm very proud to say that they are a strategic partner of ours and they realize how important it is to maximize this realm. So what we do at Netstock is we've got demand forecasting that includes lost sales, seasonality, sales seeding. We've got 400 years of supply chain expertise and self-developed forecasting algorithms. So we're pulling information out of your ERP, and I'll go through our Netstock system just now high level so you can physically see it because I say it's such a powerful system based on seeing what the profile looks like. We also have dynamic safety stock and risk adjustments, meaning we don't just hold blanket safety stock. It's all based on risk. You want to invest safety stock where there is an erratic forecast and erratic supply. And that's how we're able to truly maximize. We help with excess redistribution across multiple different locations. And this is all automated. It's all based on algorithms and AI and machine learning. We've got clear triggers for purchasing. So we're going to have a distinct, this is what you need to order. This is what you need to transfer. This is potentially what you need to create or assemble or manufacture, and that will be directly sent back into your ERP system. And then we've got a whole host of virtual dashboards and visuals and some incredible reporting tools, executive visibility as well. So we at Netstock truly pride ourselves on continuously evolving and learning from our customer base. And that's how we've been able to have various iterations of Netstock over the years. We listen to the people and we get better. Each year, we run a global benchmarking report and we engage with thousands of businesses to understand what's really happening in the market. And I want to go through today, before taking you into the Netstock instance, what is happening and what are the insights from our benchmark report. And you can see there's two very clear splits over here. So, number one, some businesses are becoming a lot more proactive, while a lot are still reacting, and we can already see that from the survey today. So AI is accelerating decision making. At the same time, tariff supply shocks and cost pressures are forcing change. So it's a bit of a strange dynamic. We've got smart tools, but unpredictable environments. So you can see over here in the slide that 63% of the people that we interviewed are impacted by tariffs. 30% are holding strategic excess, and I'll go through exactly what strategic excess is just now. 47% have tightening cash. 48% are already adopting AI. This is a global study. And 93% are launching new products. So the world of purchasing, of inventory management, of supply chain is progressing quickly. We're bringing in new products, but there's all this uncertainty around that. So I'll be honest, I hate the topic of tariffs. It truly gives me nightmares. I've been in this realm for 25 years, and tariffs were something that might have changed every couple of years. But today, they here today, gone tomorrow, and then back at double the cost the next day. And I don't use the term hate lightly. It really is unpredictable, and businesses have to adopt strategies and adapt really quickly. So what we're seeing is some businesses have absorbed costs to protect service, while others are passing them on, and some, unfortunately, are still trying to work through exactly how they are responding. So it's chaos at this particular point in time. If we can now look at what's happening in terms of the supplier reality, so lead times continue to be a major challenge, and that's coming out of every single report, not just ours. I always say if your supplier says 4 weeks in terms of lead time, most of us are quietly planning for 8 weeks, and that certainly drives behavior. It drives over ordering, it drives excess, and ultimately it drives risk. So you can see that long lead times have affected 58% of businesses. Vendor managed year on year has jumped from 29% to 44%. That's enormous. And then consignment, people are obviously, because of the cash crunch, moving more to consignment stock, which has its own set of issues. So we're going to ask another poll question, and then we'll move on to excess. So what is your biggest inventory challenge right now? Too much excess stock, frequent stockouts, balancing both A and B, lack of visibility or forecasting accuracy, or I have no inventory challenges right now. I would personally love to be in the world of no inventory challenges, but that doesn't exist, unfortunately. Okay, let's have a look at what everyone's suffering with. We'll suffer in a bulk group. Okay, too much excess stock, 13%. Stock out 7%, 33% obviously facing both. And as expected, lack of visibility or forecasting accuracy, 47%. And those 13%, you're very lucky. I'd love, as I said, to be part of that. No inventory challenges right now. So I think that definitely leads into the visibility conversation. And I will I always say, whether you look at a product like Netstock or whether you go elsewhere, I just want to work you through what I've personally seen in terms of making successful businesses more successful, maintaining success, helping growth. That's the realm that I've always lived in, and I want for everyone to see what's available. So let's finish off in terms of what came out of our benchmark report. And this is really where it gets quite interesting, is a lot of businesses are holding what we call strategic excess. And I don't say this once again, casually. In reality, though, sometimes it's just this strategic excess is often just expensive inventory sitting in a warehouse. And that breaks my heart, because inventory sitting on a shelf is like cash sitting on shelf. So we're seeing high levels of unsold stock, heavy reliance on discounting. And I can tell you one thing, that just means that you're not placing the right stock in the right place. So just to go to some of the tangible outputs, 30% from our benchmark report were holding strategic excess. That's up from 23%. So we did the study towards the end of 2025. The previous report stated 23% was holding strategic excess. Report 17% of you were holding inventory unsold for 12 months plus. That's a lot of additional working capital stuck. And then 69% of you are relying on promotions to reduce excess, while only 29% redistribute stock. And I'll never forget, I walked into an MD's office and I said to him, why are you not redistributing inventory? Why are you not looking at moving maybe inventory to other markets or back to supply if you've got that option and financially it makes sense, or obviously if you've got different hubs. And it was just too complex. It was just too risky. They didn't want to sink more cash into the logistics cost, because they didn't know if they would have to send it back and forth. And that's why a platform, an automated, strategically aligned platform, is critical. So inventory is one of the few areas where businesses truly can unlock cash relatively quickly without cutting head costs, without reducing capability, just by making better decisions. And today's environment, that's becoming absolutely and utterly critical. So we're going to go now to this slide, which is showing the heavy reliance year on year in terms of credit. So yes, it has been reduced from 53% of those users stated that they were using credit to 47. Cash usage has also reduced, and 1 in 4 have no defined financing strategy. So financial strain is really reshaping how businesses balance stock and inventory. And what we're seeing is a clear divide. Some businesses are strategic and others are reacting. And the difference isn't really effort, it's teams. Teams are working incredibly hard. The difference is visibility and decision quality. So if you feel like you're firefighting, it's not productive. It's just an expensive, unnecessary approach. So we've got 21% of people have insufficient forward planning. And we saw that as well from some of the questions we asked earlier. 4% are stocking up. 14% are running lean. Now, that running lean can also be incredibly scary, just because it's going to affect your service levels, your OTIFs. Insufficient forward planning, cash tied up in the wrong stock, 62%. That's just enormous. So some of the key takeaways from this are really simple. Leading businesses are using inventory as a competitive advantage. So that's something that you've got to realize, is that it's not just something to manage, it's something to optimize, because at the end of the day, inventory isn't a supply chain problem, it's a cash flow strategy. And I've seen it, truly I've seen it. Everything I've spoken about so far, though, of course, will sound good in theory. We all want these things, but I'll show you, obviously I'm going to show you our demo. But the real question, in my opinion, is how do we actually put these practical things into practice? So before I show you the platform, I just want to briefly touch on AI, because this is the buzzword everywhere. Um, and how we at Netstock approach AI is very practical. So many of my clients have said to me, Carrie, there's so much out there. It's overwhelming. I can't do it. And I always say to them, find a platform that AI isn't new. So, for example, we at Netstock have been using forecasting algorithms, machine learning based on that, understanding, movements of products and how effective and efficient suppliers are for 15 years. That's what we've been doing. So we're way ahead of just, a front-end AI approach. You've got to make sure that that foundation is there because bad data is going to give you bad outputs. So whenever I speak to AI, it's going to be targeted, it's going to be easy to use, it's going to be focused on real business problems because I've worked with planners my entire career, and they are not data scientists. You don't want them to be data scientists. You want to make sure that you've got an easy to use system that's based on years of experience that have delivered case studies with KPIs. I mean, we at Netstock generally reduce working capital up to 30%. That's enormous. We reduce time up to 70%. And these are case studies that we've got in play right now. We improved forecasting accuracy by 50%. And everyone we saw from the survey, everyone's worried about forecasts. It's all automated as well. And then, of course, we're going to improve fill rates by up to 15%. So I've had the privilege of using multiple different demand and inventory planning systems. I've implemented them and I've consulted on them. And there are incredible platforms out there. You've just got to make sure that it's an easy to use system because overcomplicating this realm is going to put people off. So to go back to what it is that we do at Netstock, we're going to provide you with a platform as to what to order, what not to order, where the risk sits, and where cash is tied up. Because at the end of the day, I just want to give planners, whether it's an entry-level planner, a manager, or an exec team individual, I want to give you clarity and confidence as to where you stand and how you make decisions. So what we want to solve is balance. And as I said, I'm speaking from a point of I've been in the depths of this. It's all about balancing availability, cash, and risk. So what I want to do now quickly is I'm going to take you into our Netstock instance. So please, as we said, ask as many questions as you need, and we will answer them afterwards. So we're going to move through this quite quickly. I just want to show you bits and pieces as to what you should have at your fingertips right now. And as I said, whether you come over to Netstock, whether you move elsewhere, this, in my opinion, has to be a have to have, not a nice to have situation. So straight away, it's got to be cloud-based. It's got to integrate directly into your back-end ERP systems. You don't want to mess around with data flow issues. You just don't. So you've got to go for something that's got a proven record/credibility. So straight away, I can see what my stock holding value is, what my ideal value is. So model stock is based on all of our forecasting algorithms. So we have a look at all your previous sales by product, by location, and we assign a forecasting algorithm to that. It's all automated. I want to see what my excess stock looks like, how many products that comes from, and what those products actually do. So the color-coded items over here will show, is it fast moving? Is it high contributing both to margin or cost of sales? So that I can distinguish, yes, I've got excess stock, but is it a problem or is it not a problem? And I need you to be able to filter this very quickly by warehouse, by product category, by salesperson if you have to. So it's got to be a very dynamic environment you work in. We want to have a look at what your current fill rate is, what you're stocked out of, and potential stock outs. So you can see we at Netstock need to be incredibly transparent, easy to use. Everything over here has a nice explanation button, and I'll show you some of the AI opportunities we have as well. So you need today to not spend time analyzing anything. We've now got systems and functions to be able to do that for you. So today, you come into your opportunities engine and it says to you, in this warehouse, you've run out of stock. It's causing a lost sales of X units. The value is Y. And hold on, we've detected purchase order units that won't come in on time. So please, can you get some of these delivered beforehand? And the nice thing that we've developed at Netstock is we've got some nice agentic AI built in. So I don't want to overcomplicate today's session, but what we'll do here is you can go and analyze this. And this is the actual product in question. And it will tell you exactly why you're in this position, current situations, reason for stock out. And you can now go and notify certain customers. We'll create the email for you to notify those customers as to when the order was placed and when it now will be delivered. And we can also notify suppliers as to when we need to try and expedite certain purchase orders. So we aren't integrated into your web browser or your mailbox, but we'll help you define that email so that you literally can copy and paste and send that off. So some really nice AI over there. So if we can now go to how Netstock works. So the automation is done for you. We're pulling through average costs, weight, stock on hands, what previous sales look like. So we're pulling through all information as to what you previously sold by month, by location. You can also filter this if you want to look at different locations, or we can have a look at this as an entire business. So if you don't have locations, it's easy to use. If you've got multiple locations and you want to have a look at various hierarchies for reporting, we can create those hierarchies as well. We're pulling through your lead time, and we're also defining what your actual lead time is. So here, because we have open purchase orders and when those receipts came in historically, all from your data, we can say to you, these are the purchase orders that were early, these are the purchase orders that were late, and this is your actual lead time versus this is your measured lead time versus your planning lead time. So a lot of smarts coming through there. We also define for you your safety stock. And this is critical because remember I said earlier in the presentation, we're going to look at safety stock in terms of how risky a product is. So how risky is the forecast? How often did we meet forecast? Or how often did the supplier deliver early or late? This is our planning lead time, and in full on time. So you can see over here, because the supplier risk is a problem, our safety stock has actually been derived for this product at this location at 23 days. And you don't have to touch this. This is updated automatically for you. So if all of a sudden there's a supply issue, our systems will pick that up. If there's a forecasting issue, our systems will pick that up. We're also going to provide you with your own forecast. So this is previous sales. This is your forward projected forecast based on our algorithms. And we're going to give you a nice projection of what your inventory will look like over the next 12 months up to 24 months. So we don't expect you to look at this every day. You can come in, as I said, and analyze this. But straight away, we will give you an anticipated order, because this is what people really want to see is show me what I need to order today, what I need to transfer today, what do I need to potentially order from a distribution center. All you do is you're going to pick your supplier, you're going to look at the order, and you'll download that order directly back into your MyOb environment for whatever, or if you need like an authorization process that will happen within MyOb. We have the ability also to not only provide you with what the order should look like to supplier, the order between your locations, if we need to redistribute excess, or whether you need to create a production order, because we're very strong in manufacturing. We're very used to working with bill of materials. So we'll project for your finished good, but at the same time, we'll know the ratios for your children products or your raw materials so that we can in turn provide you with an order for your raw materials. But we have the ability to increase an order to hit a certain volume. So we've got containerization opportunities, if we've got minimum order quantities, if we've got units of measure, if we've got an overarching need for a certain supplier to hit certain criteria, we do all of that as well. We bring in promotions, we bring in lost sales. So these are things that are just on top of our forecasting algorithms will help massively. Now, this is something I personally, as an analyst, love, is I want to have a look at how my products behave in my entity. And you can, as I said, look at this high level or by location. So anything in green box are fast moving, high contributing products. And we can have a look at these in terms of what are they doing in terms of margin or selling price or cost price. So imagine being able to see my entire portfolio. I've got 3,760 products, but my red box items are all slow moving products. Now, I can have a look at exactly what products those are by clicking on that. Anything in green are my fast moving, high contributing items. My blue boxes are mediums, and my golds are my outliers, meaning that they're either incredibly expensive and slow moving or fast moving and high contributing. Now, imagine being able to create a policy around fast moving, cheap products. And that's what we'll help you do is we'll say, let's order 3 months worth of inventory of these products. Let's get some really good price breaks over here from our suppliers because we know they're going to move quickly and they're cheap. Let's fill containers if we have to with fast moving, high contributing, cheap, high moving products. When it comes to slow moving, expensive products, these are the products you should be watching from a forecasting perspective. These should have a different inventory strategy, and we'll help you build all those inventory strategies as well. Imagine looking at your excess now, because we spoke earlier about what is that excess made up of. Fast moving goods, okay, great. These natural run rates will take care of those. Whereas here we need to put in active excess stock reduction plans because they're slow moving and they virtually bringing in no profit into the businesses. So we're going to click into this and we're going to send that straight off to marketing to help. I want to show you now another incredible opportunity. You've got to be agile in this environment. All of a sudden, your supplier increases their lead times. They've shut a manufacturing plant down and they've advised you, they've gone from 30 days to 90 days. You should be able to go into your platform, say supplier X is no longer 30 days, it's 90 days. Rerun the analytics on that. And what this will do is it will show you what your potential inventory will look like over the next 12 months. Of course, you can filter this to your heart's content if you want to have a look at your 12-month projection by supplier, by category, by product code, by salesperson, whatever you want, this specific platform can filter. But this will show you what your inventory holding will look like by month. Just excuse the dates over here. It will show you what your fill rate will look like. It will show you what your stock turns will look like, what your demand will look like based on our forecasting algorithms. So now you'll have the ability to be able to work with your sales teams and show your sales teams, this is what our inventory tool is suggesting that we order against sales. But what is your budget? What are your targets? Because so many times sales have a target of 100 units, but you're only ordering 30 units and you can't understand why you're always out of stock. What are your recommended orders 12 months into the future? Now you can actually sit with your supplier and say, this is what our projection is. Remember, never commit, but this is what the projection looks like. So let's look at price breaks because now we can give the suppliers better visibility so they in turn can produce an order and you can get better pricing and hopefully more efficient lead times. These are going to be your 12 months receipts into your warehouses. So imagine having the ability to speak to your warehouse manager and say, we're going to have a peak in X month or a dip in Y month. The ability to speak to your third-party logistics companies, your shipping lines, your hauliers, and give them a nice view as to what it will look like. Not only will you get better service because they will understand your requirements, but hopefully you'll get better pricing on that as well. Another thing that I urge any entity to be able to see really quickly, we're talking click of a button, is by warehouse, how many products are associated, what is your stock holding, what is your model stock? That's the ideal stock level. What are your stock turns, new stock, excess stock, and surplus orders? What I always stress is what is your fill rate versus your target fill rates. So you can have a look at this really quickly and then move into the dashboard for this specific warehouse. So it's a very intuitive system, really easy to use. And as I said, so much AI built in because I can't stress enough that a good platform is one thing, a good team is another thing, but having a system that is easy to use is everything. I've taken out expensive demand planning systems because they're just too complex. So we at Netstock have a full onboarding team in region that have years of experience doing this. And because of how we price, we've got a monthly SaaS fee. So the longer you stay with us, obviously, the better it is for our company. So we will help you define your inventory strategies. We'll help you with daily, weekly, monthly tasks. That's another thing that's critical is providing SOPs to you so that you know what to look at, to come in and look at your surplus orders over here. It's fine to have surplus orders, as I said, of those green box items, which means they're fast moving, high contributing. But this is an expensive, slow moving product. To have surplus of this is ludicrous. One other thing I want to show you that is critical to any business in this day and age is being very adaptable with forecasts. So I showed you at a SKU level, what you should be doing is always formulating a forecast based on previous history at location level because products move differently and it should be a very adaptive system. So what I want to now show you now is how we would forecast at a high level. So the blue line over here is previous sales. This line here is where we are now. And the gold line is our projected forecast. So imagine being able to have the ability to look at this forward forecast in terms of cost price. So sitting down with your sales teams and saying, we are projecting based on our forecasting algorithms that we will sell this month 3.4 million. What is your target? If it's 7 million, we have a huge problem. What we also want to have a look at is units. So are there going to be any major peaks and dips that our system's picking up? Because remember, we've got all those seasonality algorithms, forecasting algorithms, and lost sales algorithms in there as well. All of a sudden now, we've got a supplier that says to us, I'm sorry, I'm pulling out. I can't do it. So now we've had to go find another supplier. All of a sudden, we're going to be 20% above our competition. We are going to expect that there will be a decrease in forecast. So quickly, now we want to adjust 3 months and we want to say, we will pull the forecast down by 20% until our forecasting algorithms pick up new trends. Straight away, we apply this and we can apply it, as I said, to only either a certain filter, whether it's a certain product group or a certain classification or a certain demand type. I mean, the options are endless. So that's how quickly you should be adaptive in terms of being able to amend at a high level so that now we're amending everything attached to that filter by 20%. Over here, we can have a look at where we are in the month. So if we're 20% of the way through the month, which products aren't we 20% of the way through the forecast? So now that we've automated your ordering process, we've given you visibility, we've got AI to help you define what your short, medium, and long-term objectives are. We've defined your emails to send out to anyone to notify them of delays. And we can expedite orders. A lot of planners now can be a lot more proactive with forecast, and that's what they should be doing. A machine learning system like a Netstock should take up 30%, well, excuse me, it's the other way. 70% of your time now should be automated. 30% should be spent looking at products like this, where sales have far exceeded forecast. So remember we spoke about we're 30% of the way through the month, but hold on, we actually 457% of the way through the forecast. So meaning that we've superseded the forecast. This is where your demand planners should be using their time. They should be speaking to your sales team, speaking to people on the ground and understanding where we've gone wrong, and what do we need to amend. Because we at Netstock can give you a forecast, but we're always going to give you that option to be able to amend a forecast, because our algorithms will only pick it up a few weeks later. And that's where, if there's a major increase, and that's where your team should be looking at. They should be looking at where we have superseded a forecast, and the opposite is where we are actually over forecasting. It also gives you a nice view by month of what your sales were that matched forecast versus those that you exceeded forecast and those that you exceeded sales. And you ultimately want to have KPIs built around this. And we've also got a dashboard, an executive dashboard view that will show you high level what your entity is doing. You can also filter this to the nth degree, and it will show you year on year what your inventory value is, what your excess value is, where you're holding inventory. There's so much information here that I normally take a half an hour to go through those. But these are things that we as consultants used to take days to provide in Excel. Now the system's doing everything for you, and you can look at this by warehouse, by product, and we've got some beautiful AI built in here that will give you, excuse me, this is a bad example. We've only got 2 months worth of inventory here, but that will give you a synopsis of why you're in this position so that you can paste that into your board report. You no longer even need to analyze this because AI will do that all for you. So to state again, it's a very easy to use tool. It's got to be something that you've got clarity, that you've got the forecasting algorithms that will automate your ordering process, that will show you potentially what products maybe you need to move to a non-stock profile, meaning back-to-back products. So it's going to give you a lot of analytics so that you can go and say, hold on, why are we keeping 2,240 SKUs if they are virtually contributing nothing to our business? We're holding safety stock here. Let's reduce safety stock and let's move these to back-to-back products. And you can have a look at all those products really quickly and analyze those products so you can make informed decisions. And that's exactly how we get to a point where we are able to reduce working capital or reduce your inventory by up to 20, 30%, save you time by 70%, improve fill rates by 15%. And as I said, the gold here is that forecasting accuracy by 50%. And we've got all the reporting. You can self-develop reporting tools. And what I absolutely love is we've got a beautiful AI system that you can go and ask whatever question you want. We've got an entire central repository of information, and we've also got a whole lot of support individuals online that you can ask questions to. So if we can go back now quickly to our slideshow, because I want to get into some of the questions, is just to reiterate, approach to AI has to be easy to use. You've got to get answers quickly. It's got to be targeted. It's got to be secure. But please, I say again, it can't just be nice to have AI. It's got to be built on a solid platform that integrates directly with your ERP. You do not want integration issues. You do not want to self-develop this. I've done it personally before. I've probably aged about 50 years because of that. Why not use a system that's got proven outputs and years of experience? So I hopefully have shown you something today that shows you the art of the possible, I always say. Inventory is a phenomenal realm that you can optimize and be competitive and save cash.
Thanks, Kerry. I think that was very well said because I was comparing the survey report where it says 48% are adopting AI. And I was comparing that to the poll that we had put out, in which 56% are either using or testing or planning to use. And along the same lines of what you said, with the number of third-party solutions I come across, the ones that are now starting to put AI in the systems, there's a whole lot of hallucination happening. And
Mhm.
so for the attendees, if you are looking at an AI tool, um, it's one of the things to look forward is how well the model has been trained on data so that it can give you accurate results. Because an AI that doesn't help you make decisions accurately is not providing you much value. And so it's one of the things I always recommend. Ask how in how many customer base it's been used for, how long it's being used, just so that you know that the recommendations that are coming forward, they are accurate and you're not going to question the results. So thanks for that. Questions. Should we move on to them? We've got a few. Um, the first one is, what's one practical thing supply chain teams can do right now to prepare for 2026 and beyond?
Okay, that's quite an open-ended question. So, if we're talking about anything, I say look for a good platform to start off with, because so much will happen during that platform implementation. You will be upskilled, you will have all your forecasting tools, you'll have your ordering abilities. To go now and recreate spreadsheets and, as I said, self-develop algorithms, you'll be spending so much time doing that I say, look for something that has that proven track record. And as I said, that's because I've been there. I'm working with a lot of people now that are saying, oh, we can build it in Gemini, we can build it in Claude. And yes, you might be able to build a small area, but you're spending a lot of time now changing your processes, training your teams for such a small area. You need bigger than just forecasting right now. You need a forecasting engine with adaptability, with strategy around safety stock that looks at lead times. Lead times, remember, we saw lead times are critical. And you want to be able to have a really easy to use system.
Makes sense. Um, Along the same lines, the next question is, with MYOB Acumatica in place, when should someone start thinking about a solution like Netstock? When and why should this apply for me?
Okay, very good question. Now, we work very closely with Mind Acumatica. It's a phenomenal system. Where we come into play is I say that we're a cherry on top. So we've got, and no disrespect at all, but we are the experts in inventory and demand planning. So you need a good system like Acumatica because that's our foundation. Our forecasting algorithms, as I said, based on 400 years of supply chain experience. We're building in lost sales. We're building in seasonality. We're approaching safety stock very differently. Um, we we're looking at, as I said, your criteria around product. How does it contribute? Let's have buying levels associated with those products. So let's not buy expensive, slow moving products in the same way and hold it in the same way that we would cheap, fast moving products. The visibility of information, you could see, you can have a look at exactly what is your safety stock, what do your fill rates look like by location. So it is a very different beast. So my personal rule of thumb is if you've got, and this isn't a Netstock thing, this is Carrie Consulted, if you've got $1 million worth of inventory, for you not to have a more sophisticated platform, you're probably doing yourself a disservice in terms of your working capital optimization, never mind just time saving. So that would be it. I would say if you're battling right now, if you're saying I'm continuously stocked out, my forecasting accuracy rates are low. Well, I don't even know what my forecasting accuracy rates are, which most people say to me, then you should be looking elsewhere.
Rightly said. I always put it as Netstock's the predictive supply chain planning layer on top of Acumatica. So while Acumatica is telling you here's the correct transaction to process, Netstock actually tells you here's how you make the right inventory decision. So the 5 things we always recommend our customers to look for is if you are an inventory intensive business, if you've got variable demands, if you've got multiple suppliers with inconsistent lead times, if you've got multiple warehouses or locations. And we had an entire webinar last year on, are you still using spreadsheets for managing this aspect? Then you should be thinking about a solution like Netstock.
Absolutely, Masha. And a lot of people will say, it's working, but is it working as effectively as it can do? And our ROI is amazing. So more often than not, we're saving so much cash for the customer that the fees are negligible. And that's not even the ancillary benefits, as I said, time saving, the competitive advantage, and so on and so on.
Perfect. Our next question is from Craig. Does Netstock work on Exo Business 2018?
So yes, we've got multiple EXO clients, and we've even got case studies available for you right now. And we directly integrate both forwards and backwards, meaning we're pulling all historical transactions and current master data out, and we're pushing back suggested orders, transfers, works orders.
Perfect. Our next question is a 3-part question. Um, the first part is, would Netstock work from small business with stock less than 1 million?
Mm-hmm.
The second part is, what would the ROI timeline be if we implement Netstock? And the third part of this question is, can Netstock work for a highly customized product/business?
Okay, so let's answer this quickly. I say rule of thumb is 1 million, but we've got a whole host of clients with much less. And it really does depend on what the person wants. And I think you have to be competitive. You don't want to just say, okay, well, today I have 500,000, therefore tomorrow I'll have 500,000. You want to grow. And I've always set my clients up for that success. So whether they've got appetite now and they don't have that stock holding value, imagine getting onto a platform, as I said, whether it's Netstock or not, getting onto a platform at this point is perfect. It's perfect. So many of my clients have implemented this when it's, I call it 1 minute past midnight, when it's chaos. The glass slipper is gone and we have turned into a pumpkin. You don't want to be there. You want to implement this when the waters are calm. Now, the waters are not calm now, but if you are in slightly calmer waters, it's perfect. Just don't sit on your laurels and say, right now I don't need it, because you might. So absolutely, I've got a client with a one-man band, and he loves this because he can sit on a beach and see exactly where his inventory is, and he can just dump that order straight away. Number 2, in terms of ROI, it really does depend on ROI timeline. It does depend on your composition of your inventory. Those that have heard me speak before, I've worked with people that have gone and bought in very interesting things like garden gnomes during COVID, because they thought people are going to be gardening for a while, and they sit with that because you can't move that. But generally speaking, we say between 12 to 16 months, we should have you right there in target if there's workability within the composition of your inventory. So we can actually flush inventory out to the market. And then in terms of the complexity, so how Netstock started is they wanted to provide SME businesses, small, medium enterprise businesses, with a phenomenal platform that they could never have afforded before. And yes, there is allowance for complexity. Of course, there is, because we've got, as we said, almost 2,500 clients globally. Trust me, we've worked with complexity all the way from listed entities to entry level, from manufacturing through to fast moving consumer goods. So it really, I don't want to commit because I'd need to understand a little bit more what the complexity looks like. But it's very rare that we haven't dealt with your situation before. And we'll be brutally honest with you. We'll say to you, this isn't for you, or it is for you. Because as I said, it's all about entrenching ourselves in the customer base. We don't really want to have an entire onboarding team do something where it's going to be futile in 2 months' time and you say, I'm sorry, I don't want to work with you.
Thanks for that, Carrie. Next question is, are there any specific industries or regions that are adapting faster to these new planning trends?
Very good question. Now, what baffled me was I truly thought that Australia would be more advanced than most. But what came out of our benchmark report is it's not. But we have the longest lead times generally in the world, according to that study. And once again, we will get to a point that if we don't move quicker because of the longer lead times, and now you're fighting competition elsewhere in the world, um, it's going to be a horrible mix at some point. So our client base over here, we've probably got about 630 brands that we work with just in Australia slash New Zealand slash a little bit in APAC alone. Um, and our growth rates are fantastic. But as I said, coming out of the survey, generally, the region that's moving the quickest is actually Africa. And I think once again, that's just because of the turmoil and they've got to adapt quickly. The red tape there is negligible.
Thanks, Kerry. We've got two questions from Peter. The first one is, I've been interrupted a few times during this presentation. Will this be sent out via email to watch again? Yes, Peter. Anyone who's registered for this webinar, they will receive a recording of this webinar. So you should get that in the next few days. But the second question from Peter is, what is the actual costing?
Okay, so how we work is, and I want to put a caveat in this, I'm not in sales. I always say I'm a diehard ops person, is that we're an OpEx-based model. So we have a once-off onboarding and training fee, and that will be for full implementation, full training. You'll have your own designated onboarding executive. You'll be hosted by customer service who will train you as well. You'll have the support in there. And then we have a monthly cost, and it really does depend on the value of your inventory and what add-ons you want. So I don't want to give you a number now because I know nothing about your business. But what we are offering is today, and apologies, I stopped the slide deck, but we are offering today anyone from this webinar that sits on one of our demos before the end of June will get a 50% reduction in the onboarding and inventory cost. So you'll have a 50% reduction in onboarding and training. And then we've got, as I said, a monthly SaaS fee.
Perfect. We've got 1 minute left. I will ask the last question and then we can cover off the last slide, Kerry. How are leading companies actually using AI in their planning processes, and is it delivering measurable results yet?
Yep. So if I look at our client base, or generally, let's not even go our client base, let's say just generally, where are people using it? They're using it in forecasting algorithms. Okay, that's the general norm right now, is people have advanced in that realm, but they're not considering lost sales, meaning that how often were you out of stock for the month? So imagine you sell 20, 20, 20, but in fact, you're actually out of stock for 50% of the month, and you can't understand why you're always out of stock. It's because you didn't sell 20, you actually in theory sold 13. And to have an algorithm do that is really difficult, a real-time algorithm that's not pulling information out. But to answer your question, forecasting is where most people have optimized. And then what people are also doing is they're getting a little bit smarter in terms of being able to not just say, we'll keep 20 days worth of safety stock or 30 days worth of safety stock. You want to at least have a stock holding policy based on, as I said, what that product's doing for your business, and it's not a rank A means it's important. Yes, what does important mean? Is it important in terms of contractually important? Is it important because it's adding value? A lot of people are also looking at that realm. Of course, we at Netstock are covering everything, but I would suggest you at least have those two components.
Great. Thanks for that, Kerry. That's it for questions. If this does trigger a bit of thinking, for you. And if you do have further questions, you want us to arrange introductions with Netstock, if you want to see a demo, if you just want to have a discussion with someone to understand either how the pricing works or what about the product or the process, please reach out to your Kilimanjaro account managers and we can help arrange these for you. We do look forward to continuing these conversations. Thank you, Carrie, for your time today, and have a good rest of your day, everyone.